just seeing how my parents work and this work ethic that they instilled, it just really influenced me. And it still influences me till this day. During this time, there was so much financial turmoil between my father, myself, my brother. We had gotten evicted from like three different apartments. Here I am, 21 years old, maybe 20 at the time, walking into this environment, and you just have to dig deep. You don't have a fallback plan. I don't want to go back to Best Buy selling TVs. So I saw this was my way out. So I went all in into this mortgage industry, and I got my license, originated my first $50,000 in loan origination fees. And then 2008 happened.
Captain of a community. Welcome back, or welcome to, for your first time, Grateful and Full of Greatness. I'm your host, Mark Lassini. On this podcast, I sit down with guests who, in my opinion, live their lives with the pursuit of greatness in mind. This platform allows me to discuss and to explain strategies that go into reaching peak performance. This is episode 71. My guest is Alex Celis, an esteemed entrepreneur and community builder with a deep passion for fitness, wellness, and connection. In 2015, roughly a decade ago, he and his brothers founded a juice bar dedicated to promoting a healthy lifestyle. What started as a single location in South Florida has grown into a thriving business with 3 locations in West Palm Beach Island, and Delray, and perhaps one on the horizon as well. Celis Juice Bar emphasizes quality, well-being, and bringing people together. In 2020, Alex extended his commitment to health by launching Celis Run Club, which has since become one of the largest run clubs in the nation, attracting hundreds of runners weekly. I met Alex several months ago and instantly could tell his energy was special. Alex has an incredible ability to connect with anyone instantly and inspire hundreds to thousands of people through his vision, leadership, empathy, and relentless work ethic. I'm fired up for him to share some of that inspiration with you today through his story. So without further ado, Alex, I made you wait long enough on that intro. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on here.
Mark, what a beautiful intro. Thank you so much. I've never been so gassed up in my life.
Well, you deserve it. And I think that's why I wanted to have you on here is not just for you to share your story, but many people around town are calling you the mayor of West Palm Beach. And it's a funny joke, but it's also, there's some seriousness to it because of your ability to connect. So I want to start there. What would you say about your ability to connect? Like, has that something you've always had the capacity to do, or is that something that has grown as you've matured and evolved as an entrepreneur?
I, I think about this all the time because it is a very like special trait that I have, and I know it's somewhat of a superpower because I get told all the time that I'm just very personable, I'm charismatic, I connect with people very easily. So I've done some like soul searching on that to figure out where it came from, and I could think back to even like the days where I was playing little league baseball, and I was always like really well connected with all the team players. I just had this ability to connect with people uh, at a very young age. I don't have the answers to it. I mean, I've even talked to my therapist about it. It could have been some ways of like coping with issues at home where maybe I couldn't connect with my parents or people in my neighborhood, but I could connect with people that had common interests as me. So when it came to like baseball, I was able to like mask all these things that were happening at home by connecting with people that have a common interest. And year by year, it just got more. I guess you like it's like a skill. You work on it, and since I've been working on it since Little League baseball, and now I'm close to 40 years old. Well, I'm 38. I'm really shooting myself in the foot here. I'm giving myself 2 years for no reason, but I've been working on this skill, on this power that I have to connect with people, and it's a very useful tool for business, for community, for networking. It's just something that I keep in my sleeve.
Yeah, I mean, I might put you on the spot here because I'm not sure if you've ever had to answer this question. I was listening to a different podcast, and the woman who was running it ended up being a speaker at this event, and she said, perhaps what I think is the number one quality somebody could have is likability. And I thought that was very interesting, right? Just because you can build rapport, and then whatever happens after that is special. So for someone that's listening that wants to be better at connecting with people and wants people to like them and build that rapport, could you give them maybe like one, two, or three pieces of advice that come to mind on how you go about it?
When I carry conversations or when I first meet people, I don't ever make it about myself. I make it about them. And I've 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 figured a way to connect with people is by getting their story, and I'm genuinely interested in people's story. I genuinely want to know what they do for work, what they do as their hobbies. Do they like to train? Are they physical? Where are they from? How is their upbringing? So the first few times that I meet somebody, they might know close to nothing about me outside of that I own Celis. They don't know that I'm Colombian. They don't know that I didn't go to college. They don't know that I'm born and raised in West Palm. But I know a whole lot about them. And I feel like people love to talk about themselves, and I love to know more about people. So I just give them the floor, and then they just start to share, and I love to hear it.
There's a saying that people are interested in those who are interested, and you embody that perfectly, right? Just with bulging eyes, can't wait to hear what else about their story. Alex, there's a genuine nature though to it. You actually truly care, right? You're not just putting on a
Mhm.
facade and waiting for them to finish. Would you say that's accurate, that it is genuine?
Oh, for sure. It's 100% genuine. I would only do it if it's genuine. I'm not um, trying to connect with somebody to see how I could use them in the future. It's genuine connection, and I'm really inspired by people that I meet at Run Club that show up by themselves, that are from a different hometown, and they're just putting themselves out there, showing up by themselves to this group of hundreds of people. Uh, and it's my opportunity to connect with them. Hey, where are you from? What brought you out here today? Um, so on and so forth. And it's a
Yeah.
very genuine connection because I want them to feel seen. I want them to feel like they belong somewhere. Um, because for a long time I didn't feel that way. So it's a really good way to for me to like kind of heal myself is by healing others in a way. It's hard to explain, but it's always in with genuine intentions.
And very interesting. Just one thought, and then I want to come back to your earliest influences. There's a top UK therapist. Her name is Marissa Peer, and she was sharing this idea that when you're a baby turned child turned young adult slash teen, you have these needs, right? You want to be protected, you want to be seen, you want to be heard, you want to be loved, you want somebody to be proud of you, you want to be celebrated. And this is just an idea that I heard, that if you give that to other people, right? You need it from other people all the time, then you become a needy person, right? You need to be seen by other people. And I think a lot of the transformative idea is giving that to yourself, see yourself, celebrate yourself, go through that sort of journey. So going on that idea of seeing and hearing people and bringing it to your own upbringing. I mean, you shared there that you didn't go to college, but I want to go even before that. Could you talk a little bit about some of your earliest influences and perhaps how that attaches to why you and your brother started with juice and smoothies?
My mom and dad for sure are like a huge influence on our journey. They're both entrepreneurs. My mom cleaned houses for close to 40 years here in the West Palm and Palm Beach area. And my dad has been in the produce business since 1989. Uh, he's had a lot of peaks and valleys in his business, has always operated like a very small scale business, but looking at him and being so relentless in this pursuit of success has always instilled this work ethic in me and also within my brothers. My dad's he's had a few businesses that have like he started and he sold, but they weren't super successful. He had an outdoor market that sold produce, flowers, plants. I think he made coffee. This was back when I was in elementary school. It was right off of Dixie, close to Forest Hill. It was an outdoor market called Continental Market. He had that for a few years. Growing up in that environment, you just feel inspired. It's like this little oasis of produce and flowers and plants, and you're 5, 6 years old running around here playing hide and seek with your brother. And then you fast forward to like 2003, 2004, maybe. My dad opened another market on Dixie Highway right across the street from Carvel. It was called Fruta Fresca, which relates to fresh fruit. It was named after a song by Carlos Vives. He's a Colombian artist. And my dad had this little market that sold coffee. He did rotisserie chicken. He did empanadas. I mean, he did it all in this little bodega. And this is when I was like in high school, um, maybe a year after high school. A lot of these memories that can kind of like tie into like a certain time of my life. Um, but growing up in that market as well also inspired me. Um, but those were huge inspirations. In the moment, I didn't see them as inspirations. I just saw it as another pursuit that my dad was doing towards success. And we would be there to support him and help him open it. We would run it. We would go out and do deliveries. We would work green markets on the weekends. And this was all through high school. On Saturdays, I'd be up 4 in the morning doing green markets in Royal Palm. And that was just a normal thing for us growing up. So after high school, now I'm a man apparently, and I could decide what I want to do. I didn't want to be in the family business. I started working odd jobs. Well, now we're going into a whole different subject. We're more talking about like the influence. So in that time, my parents, it didn't feel like an influence, but now as you grow older and you mature and you have wisdom and you start really looking at like how you got here, it was because I was influenced slowly as an early as a young adult, even as a young teenager, just seeing how my parents work and this work ethic that they instilled. It just really influenced me, and it still influences me till this day.
Amazing. And I mean, you use the word inspiration in there. It's part of my statement as a company to inspire, guide, and empower others. And the root of inspiration means to breathe life into some people and breathe life into someone. And the thing that I take most away from your story there is this idea that children won't always listen to what their parents say, but they will never fail in becoming who they are. And I love that idea because there's this observation, curiosity, just watching, 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 watching. And now I do want you to go into that chapter that you were about to go into, right? When you did become a man after high school, if you will, and what were some of the choices, maybe highs and lows during that epoch?
Yeah. So my parents were never huge on education. I don't think I ever showed them a progress report. It was just more just stay out of trouble, um, and just be a good kid and respect others. That was like their main priority. And then I was just heavily involved in athletics growing up. But when I graduated high school, I just got directly into the workforce. I started working at BJ's Wholesale Club. I worked at a welding shop. I did carpentry work for a company called Seacrest Services. I worked at Sound Advice doing home theater installation. And then I worked at Best Buy off of Palm Beach Lakes. I worked a Black Friday there, and I was like, this is absolutely miserable. But it was just me trying to figure out like I had no idea what I wanted to do. I didn't have a college education. I was broken out with acne. I was out of shape. I was lost, and I didn't have any direction. And my parents, all they did was work. That they didn't nudge us to do anything. And I was just really lost. Had no idea what I was going to do. And a friend of mine approached me because he was working in the mortgage industry and he was doing well. So then I got into the mortgage industry, and I would say that was my education. I learned a lot working at this company, and I had no idea what any fashion brands were. I didn't know Ferragamo existed. I just knew like the big houses like Gucci and whatnot, but I didn't know what a wool suit looked like. I was just completely disconnected from that world. And in joining the mortgage industry, not only did it build my confidence because we did all of our sales over the phone, we would every morning we'd have a pitch meeting at 9 a.m. We'd sit in this boardroom. There would be 40 loan officers or like going to be loan officers. We were in a training program, and we would go through a script and read rebuttals in front of each other and the executives of the company. And it was this really intense, like 45-minute pitch room. And here I am, 21 years old, maybe 20 at the time, walking into this environment, and you just have to dig deep. And you don't have a fallback plan. I don't want to go back to Best Buy selling TVs. And so I saw this was my way out. So I went all in into this mortgage industry, and I got my license. I closed my originated my first $50,000 in loan origination fees, and then 2008 happened. Lehman Brothers would
Mm.
close down. So I was like, all right, now I'm back to zero. And during this time, there was so much financial turmoil between my father, myself, my brother. We had gotten evicted from like 3 different apartments. It was just like 4 really, really hard years from like high school up into this point. Um, and then finally, we were able to find a little bit of financial stability even after the 2008 recession. I got into the insurance business. I had this gift now to get on the phone and talk to people and connect to people and sell a product. So we started doing insurance, and then we slowly got back into the mortgage business when it started to get better. By that time, I was 26 years old, going on 27, and I just had this itch. I was going to a lot of small businesses in the area and eating at Vietnamese restaurants and Thai restaurants. Every Sunday I would go get oxtail from like different Jamaican restaurants in the area. And I was really interested in food and restaurants and small businesses. And it brought me back to my dad's markets and the produce business. And suddenly I have like this desire to be back in the produce business, which is the furthest thing I wanted to do when I was coming out of college or coming out of high school. I'm sorry. And call it faith. I was going into my Bank of America account, and Bank of America did a story on a company called the Fruit Guys in San Francisco. This was a company delivering handheld fruit and to tech companies all around the Bay Area. You go on their website, you order a size for the amount of employees that you have, and then they go and they deliver it to your office. And I was like, this is cool. This is like a very advanced way of selling produce. It's modern. It's a little sexier because the produce business is brutal. It's the wholesale distribution business is brutal. And I saw this opportunity. I started doing some market research in West Palm. Granted, I don't have an MBA. I'm just like on Google, like, do people deliver produce to West Palm? And it's like, oh, there's a company in Miami. There's a company driving all the way from Tampa to West Palm to drop fruit off. I'm like, there's a market here. Instantly started putting a business plan together, building a website out. I could get produce from my dad. And I launched Celis Produce at the time, 3 months after I read that article. That's how determined I was to start Celis. And I sold my car. I bought a little Nissan NV van. And that was my daily driver for 3 years. And I was just dropping off produce at homes and offices around Palm Beach County. I was doing close to 125 deliveries a week. I was working at the green markets on Saturdays and Sundays with my brothers, and we were just building up cash so we could open a brick and mortar. And then in 2015, we opened up, which was almost a year and a half after we had started Celis, the whole home delivery service. A year and a half later, we opened our first brick and mortar on Dixie Highway. And then there's a whole other story with that. I'm a big story guy.
This episode is brought to you by Whoop. For the last several years, I have not taken this off my wrist. Okay, maybe I have, but it was just to change the colors. I truly trust Whoop. It's a wearable that lets me know about my resting heart rate variability, respiratory rate, and so much more. I wake up in either the green, yellow, or red, and I know if I should prioritize training and working out harder, or I need to prioritize recovery. I was always looking for ways to optimize and take my performance and training to the next level. Whoop's helped me do that. If you're looking to get started, here's a free wristband and a free first month. And if you don't like it, you can return it at no cost. All you have to do is go to the following: join.whoop.com/MGPP. That's join.whoop.com/MGPP. Mark Lassini Peak Performance, my clients, I trust Whoop. You should too. Enjoy. Let me know how you get on. Now, back to the episode. I almost made a promise at the beginning of the introduction for listeners that they'd be inspired by this one, and I'm listening to it, just writing down all these notes and smiling. I have a lot of things to say, but I really hope the listeners are just inspired as much as I am. Right, just going from a place of lost. I mean, who could not relate to that? I mean, the thing that's common among all of us is love. And I think the first thing that comes to mind is there's this entrepreneur, Daniel Priestley, who defines passion in an addition equation. And he said passion equals origin plus mission plus vision. And I like that because origin is what have you always done, your background. Like, and can you remember when this all started? And when you started Celis Juice Bar, like you've been doing this for a long, 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 long time. And then vision is seeing a future worth living into, whether that's 1, 3, 5, or more years from then. And then mission being the highest value thing you could do right now. And I love the last part of your story there. And the grit and the no job too small mentality. I got to share this story with you, Alex. I had the opportunity and I had a 20 to 30 minute conversation with Jack Nicklaus a couple of weeks ago, the best golfer who ever lived, three more majors than Tiger Woods. He has 18, Tiger has 15, right? So here's the best golfer who ever lived. And I asked him, what made you a perennial winner? And he said, one, I knew who I was and I didn't try to be somebody else. Two, which I really loved, which is I learned why I was losing and I did less of that. I never hear that. I've never heard that before, and I thought that was really cool. And the third thing he said was patience, which from the Latin root comes to endure and to suffer and to just stay in the fight, if you will. And the reason why I bring that up is one, he shared a story with me of 4 years, right? From when he was 20 years old, came in second at the US Open, all the way to when he was 24 and had his like gut wrenching loss as a leader and fell off at Pebble Beach. But 4 years of learning how to lose and learning how to lose. And that's what you were saying. Like there was this turmoil in the family at 4 years and trying to figure it out and trying to figure it out. But I come back to patience. Alex, this is the coolest part of his story. Not that he has three more majors than Tiger, right? 18 versus 15. He has 19 second place finishes at majors, right? So like he has more losses in these majors just by that close, right? So it wouldn't even be close between him and Tiger if he took a lot of those, right? But that's the coolest part of his stories. He endured, he endured. I just love that part of his story because he stayed in the fight, just like your story was showing so beautifully. I mean, there's so many questions I want to ask you, Alex. I have to choose which one I want to. I guess I would say just for you to keep going. You're now in it, and you get the brick and mortar. Could you talk about the earliest chapters of Celis Juice Bar now that it's running for an entrepreneur that might be listening out there? Now you got this business, this thing started, right? The 3 months from
Mm.
idea to implementation. Could you go into the highs and lows of the very early years and maybe whatever really stands out there?
Yeah, so we opened this brick and mortar with this idea of having fresh produce. It's literally like a little replica of one of my dad's markets, as crazy as that sounds. And we have a section of produce, and this is in a 767 square foot space. So you're thinking produce market, you're thinking thousands of square feet. We wanted to be like a little boutique, hipsterish produce market that sold juices and smoothies. Our original menu had three juices, three smoothies. We first opened our doors. People were not really interested in produce. We may sell flowers here and there and some market items, but most people would go to the juice bar. Uh, our sales were close to nothing. We would do maybe $300 to $600 a day, 600 being a busy day. And we had our home delivery service that was maintaining a good cash flow. So that's what made it work. And then my brother and I were also cleaning offices at night to supplement some income. So that goes back to my mom and her cleaning and the connections there. But this is all night. It's night work. We were cleaning an urgent care in Boca Raton, and we did that for like 3 years. Uh, but we opened this location. It's there's a lot of like positive feedback, but the sales just aren't there, and it's not really marketable. how many people are shopping for produce that they can only get a few select items. Like you walk into Publix, you have hundreds of items. You walk into our location, there might be 30 items, 40 items. So most people aren't going to go to our store and Publix and then go home. They're just going to hit it all at once. So through the years, we're like, all right, this produce thing isn't working, and that's fine. We're going to be in the juice business. So we eliminate all the produce. We minimize our market items. We add more to our juice and smoothie menu. We add acai bowls. We add an espresso machine because we only did cold brew in the beginning. So now we're more of a juice bar cafe, or not even a juice bar coffee bar. And then we start seeing our sales slowly start going up, and they're going up a little bit more. And we're like, all right, this is working. This is great. But how can we use more sales? Our customers are saying, hey, you should have eggs on the menu, or like hard boiled eggs, or like grab and go salads, or and we're like, all right, let's add a food element to this. Let's listen to our customers. Let's pivot again, which we did 4 years after we opened. So in 2019, we started selling food. And that was a game changer. When we first started doing food, people just didn't like see it coming. So they, even though we were marketing it, and we were probably doing $50 to $100 tops in food sales a day. And we're like, all right, this is just, it's another thing that we have to build. We had to build our home delivery service. We had to build our store. We had to pivot our store. And then that started to build again. And then we pivot again. Now we got to build this pivot. And now food is our top selling item in our store. Uh, yeah. So that was a good move in 2019. And then COVID happened. So COVID's a whole other story. COVID, personally, our location did get hit. In 2008, like 2018, we stopped our home delivery service. It just started to, our focus started to go more into the stores. So then we completely pulled out of the delivery service and we focused on our store. And then 2020, COVID happened, and we're like, all right, my dad's business is really hurting right now. Restaurants aren't ordering that much produce. Why don't we start our home delivery service again? And we made this huge announcement on social media. It helped my dad move all of his inventory. So within 2 days, we went and did a full product shoot of all the produce that he has there. We created an online platform through Square, and we launched Celis Home Delivery. And my dad was the one who facilitated everything. We were doing close to 100 deliveries a day. And my dad
Wow.
was busier than ever. We hired a few friends. We had family working with us. They were sorting deliveries, shooting out on the roads and delivering. And we took this really dark time where people were scared to go to Publix or Whole Foods. And we were basically Instacart in 2020 with
Wow.
produce. It was a huge success. Palm Beach posted a story on it. The Palm Beach Weekly with the Daily News, or the Shiny Sheet, they did a story on us. I mean, it was tremendous. It was a huge push for our business, and I think people just started seeing our name a lot more often. Maybe they respected the hustle, but it also started bringing more people into our stores. And ever since 2020, like year after year, our store just is up 20, 30% across locations. I mean, I don't know what the formula is. I just go with my gut and what feels right, and it's kind of paid off tenfold.
Some companies and brands have like these like cemented core values and first principles, and then others just have them like generally arise, right? They're not like on the wall or something like that. So if I had to ask you that question about some of the key principles that your family business was so strong in weaponizing and utilizing, what would be some of the key tenets or words that come to mind there? Anything? Because you said like everybody started to get involved. Like there was like family and friends were helping you with the deliveries and things like that. So what would be some of those key principles, even though you might not have them, cemented, that you really were relying upon, especially in 2019, 2020, and now?
Yeah. So in those times, the family and friends that were working, they're out of work and they needed something to do. And I was like,
Um,
oh, well, we have this delivery service and we need drivers, so go drive. go deliver this produce for us. And we were
Right.
sorting everything and they were out doing the deliveries. So in that sense, it was like, I just want to help somebody that needs help right now. And we had probably like a handful of people that worked with us at that time that we were able to help. And I mean, I'll still bump into them till this day, and they're like, they remember those days. And to me, it was
Mm,
just, there was so much work and so much happening at that time
right.
that like you forget sometimes, like that situation, that moment where people were really struggling, people that didn't know what was going to happen, people were isolated, people were fighting depression, people like, we were unsocial beings at that time, and we are very
Right.
social beings. So it wasn't a, not that I made a huge impact with like my my friend group, but there were a select few that I did have a huge impact with. And then I did have a huge impact with my community because I was helping them in a time that they were afraid. They're afraid to leave their house. And we're like, all right, we're basically first responders right now. Like, we're going out there and we're making sure people have fresh produce so they can cook at home. You know, we're taking all of our necessary precautions to make sure that our community is being fed. You know, that was like the way I saw it. I was like, we're out here, like we're in ground zero delivering produce for people. And it's something
Yeah.
so minuscule, but to
Yeah.
me, a home cooked meal, there's nothing better than a home cooked meal. And to provide produce for a household to be able to cook at home is very rewarding.
Alex, it's this is one of the biggest dichotomy that I hope more people come to understand as things evolve on the mental health and performance front is that there's no difference between being self-conscious and neurotic and negative emotion. There's no difference. Those are all the same thing, right? So when we are isolated, we are using language like I, me, and my more often. I'm having a bad day. This happened to me. That's the language that people use. And the way to get out of that, it sounds super counterintuitive, is get outside yourself. So this whole idea of helping other people, I mean, Alex, how great did you feel being able to give people these jobs? It's just like it's reflective in that way. So I want to go into the run club now because now it is right around that 2020 time and helping others. You've been doing that for years now, and you see the kind of impact that you're having. What about that? Could you talk about the inspiration again to launch Celis Run Club and then how that gained momentum?
Like, there was already stories about COVID happening in China. It still hadn't made it to the States. This was like kind of like January, February time. That's when we started forming Run Club. And it was just like four or five of us. We'd go out and just hit a run. And I was like, well, I feel like this could be like a good thing for our business. We're in the health and wellness space, and running is health and wellness. So let's focus on this and advertise this and market it. And let's just do something positive for our community that's also going to help our business. And then COVID happened, and there was lockdowns, and there was social distancing. And I was like, all right, well, I'm outside every single day. I'm running and I see people running and riding their bike. And granted, laws were a little bit different in South Florida, but we were allowed to go outside. And as long as we're practicing social distancing, we could all be together. I was like, well, Run Club is just that. We're all going to be outside. We'll practice social distancing. And it's going to encourage people to come out and socialize. It was the same mentality. People are isolated at home right now. They don't have people to connect with. This Run Club could be a place for that. Uh, Run Club wasn't a huge hit in the beginning. We would get, like, on a really good Wednesday, we'd get 15, 20 people. And that was within the first year. And then it kind of started dying out a little bit when the people weren't as afraid to go out and socialize. So in 2021, it just kind of stayed very stagnant. And then in 2022, there's starting to be a little bit more of an uptick, but not enough to like keep me intrigued. And I was on the verge of pulling the plug. I was like, this is a huge commitment. I've been doing this every Wednesday for the last 3 years, and or for the, yeah, 2021, 22. And then it was October of 2022 where I made the decision. I was like, all right, I'm either going to treat Run Club like very serious. I'm going to start an Instagram page for it. I'm going to market it, and I'm going to treat it like a business with a schedule. And instead of just dropping it on Celis Juice Bar like Wednesday, 6 p.m., it was just very, it was very like kind of like put on the side. It almost felt like a burden to run Run Club. And then I took my hat off and I was like, all right, we're going to do it like a business. We're going to create a schedule. In October of 2022, I made my first post of of Run Club. And then from there it started to grow a little bit more. It was 25 people and then 30. And it was the same 30 people I would show up. And it was like this really strong community. I really felt like it was embodying what I wanted it to be in 2020. And I was like, if I pulled the plug on this in September of 2022, I would have never been able to experience any of this.
So let me say this, Alex. I had this note because you said it earlier when it went from juice bar to coffee bar to putting the food on. You had these glimpses of it's not really working, yet you still
Mhm.
dug in, right? There's a performance psychology line. The only way out is all the way in, right? It's not this like, oh, this isn't working, palms up, move on. Could you talk about that? How do you know when to stay in the fight versus like this is actually not working and I'm being kind of silly and trying to keep something afloat that's not working? How do you look at that, Alex?
It's almost an intuition. And I've seen my dad, even in the business that he has right now, and it's still running. My dad has failed so many times in that business,
Mm.
but he gets back up. My dad's worked in parking lots. My dad's had so many hardships in this business, and it's still running and operating until this day. And it's actually doing better than ever today. Had he given up 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I don't know where my dad would be. And there's part of that like personality trait that I live with. And then I also look at a situation where, all right, I'm in this moment with Run Club, but I haven't given it, I'm giving it 70%. And now I'm going to quit. It's like, let me give it 100%. Let me run a trial at 100%. And if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. I got to pull the plug. Just like with the produce inside of our store, we gave it almost 3 years, like 2.5 years. And like the produce doesn't work, let's pull the plug. It's not going to just pick up next year. People want more juices and smoothies. So let's focus on that. And now we look at where Run Club is now. And I've met, I mean, my whole community now that I hang out with and my life, my personal life is a part of is all because of Run Club. There's people that I've met at Run Club that started dating and they have a beautiful relationship. There's people in Run Club right now that I see travel. They're traveling to different parts of the world together. I met a couple in Run Club that I went to the south of Spain to watch them get married, and they're still dear friends till this day. Like Run Club has been such a special part of our business and my personal life. And I think back at that time where I thought I was going to pull the plug on it, and I'm so grateful I did it.
Alex, how do you know, or let me ask you this differently. Was there a time where you're like, we have something special here, whether it was with Celis Juice Bar or with the Run Club, or because I feel when I study high performers, they have this underlying optimism and hope. And at the same time, I don't want to call it petrified or terrified, but they're very rational and they're very detail oriented and structured, just like you making the Run Club a business, right? There's a certain, not pessimism, but this might not work out. Things could fall through because you kind of know what it's like to fail. So you have this like overarching sentiment of optimism, but you're still preparing. So was there ever a time, whether it was 2018 or 2020 or 2022 or even now, right, where you felt like, okay, this is special?
So it was actually pretty early, and I mean, I was paying myself close to nothing, and the business wasn't doing crazy numbers, but we had a really strong community within our store. And we did this collab with a local florist, my buddy Ricky, who owns Zipatillos. We did this beautiful dinner in the alley of Celis. It was so unorthodox. We had 40 people. We had these beautiful farm style tables and chairs with string lights. And we made a 4 course meal that we like fully grilled, and we had servers. And you look, and it's this alley behind Celis, legitimately next to a dumpster. And we have a lawyer, a financial advisor. We have someone that works for the Palm Beach Post. We have this collection of people in this alley that came together for this very out of the box dinner, and they all loved it. And we were talking like all night. I mean, the vibe was just so high, the energy was so good. And I remember thinking to myself in that moment, like, this, like what we have and what we can do is so special and it's so much bigger than the store. And there's two sides to that because there's times I look at my business, I'm like, you compare yourself to other businesses and what they have and how many locations they have. Look at Joe and the Juice and their international 300 locations and blah, blah, blah. And then you're like, stop, stop thinking that. Because what I have is it's very personal. It's legitimately ingrained in this West Palm Beach community. And instead of thinking what Joe and the Juice has, think about what West Palm Beach would be without Celis today. Celis just pulled out. We were just like, there's no more run club, there's no more juice bar. How would that affect the city? And would it affect it? And I feel like it would. And that's what I focus on is how could I make this city better? How could I make this community better? And how could I instill that culture for 10, 20, 30 more years down the road where the city would feel if Celis were to pull out or were to close down, how would that affect people's day-to-day lives?
This episode is brought to you by Thorne Health Tech. Which company do you trust when it comes to your health? Thorne Health Tech provides over 190 supplements and products necessary to avoid deficiencies and optimize mental acuity, holistic health, speed, strength, and conditioning. For years, I've taken their amino complex, whey protein, and elite multi AM and PM vitamins. I'm proud to represent Thorne. Why? Because their quality of products is the highest, as well as purity and potency of every supplement. They're backed by the Mayo Clinic. The raw materials that go into the supplements are NSF certified for sport, as well as tested and retested to meet Olympic standards. So if you're looking to optimize your performance and get to the next level, whether it's to meet your protein thresholds or just optimize holistically, trust Thorne. To get started, enter your email and enjoy 25% off at thorne.com/u/Mark That's thorne.com/u/Mark. Enjoy. Now, back to the episode. And I think that's the perfect way to look at it. When you just did that stop, it made me think of this Buddha saying about suffering. All suffering comes from one of two things: wanting what you do not have or having what you do not want, right? So if you have an illness, you don't want to have that. And the other side of it, which I think is more important and pertinent to what you're saying, is you can be happier and less suffering if you decrease your wants. And that's a difficult thing, right? Because it's like right when you get here, now that's the new normal. That's the new homeostasis. That's the new standard. It's like, well, I got to go there now, right? And that's a very difficult and never-ending rat race. And I think that's why it's titled the way it is, but the gratitude is the healer to that, right? It really brings you back to a place of abundance rather than lack.
Mm-hmm.
Alex, I want you to speak directly to somebody that wants to take a risk, but they're hesitant. So somebody who's listening to this right now, right, that maybe they want to start a business or they're just struggling in a relationship or whatever, and you've taken that leap of faith time and time again, right? Even with like failure there. I like how you said earlier, there's no way I'm going back to Best Buy. That was really cool about like burning the ships sort of thing. I gotta go. But what would be your piece of advice to someone who's struggling? They want to make a decision, but they're scared.
I The only thing that I could look at is I just look at my story, and I don't have a college education. I legitimately worked at Best Buy, like, and I've been able to crawl out of these really dark holes and just be absolutely relentless in this pursuit of just trying to better myself and trying to better my community. So if you're in a position where you want to start your own business, you have to ask yourself, like, are you willing to fight? Are you willing to fight through these really hard times? Because there are the anomalies that are very successful right off rip. And you look at Celis, and there's a lot of people that are like, oh, how long have you been in business? It's like, well, we celebrate 10 years in August. Like, you've been around for 10 years. It's like, yeah, 5 of those years we didn't have an identity. And then the other 5 years has been building the business. But people look at us right now and they're like, you guys are tremendously successful. And it's like, yeah, we fought through blood, sweat, and tears to even see a light at the end of the tunnel. Are you willing to clean offices that night? And that physically, but like you got to think about these things because that's sometimes what it takes to be even a little bit successful. You got to just really fight to make a name for yourself. And I feel like that's what we've done. It's just pure grit. You know, I'm not the smartest person in the room, but I will work hard and I have a really strong moral compass and I'm always trying to do things to not just look at what's the best interest for me, but what's the best interest for the business and what's the best interest for the community, what's the best interest for the employees. But if you're in a position where you want to start your own business, make sure it's calculated, make sure you're passionate about it, and just go for it. Just
Yeah.
try because 10 years later you're going to look back and it's like shit, I should have started that 10 years ago.
I've shared this with you. I think even in that room that you're sitting in, there's two things I really take away from Jeff Bezos's story. One is a quote, "Be stubborn on vision and flexible on details," and the other is what you just said. He said, "I looked far ahead in my life, and I said, which road would I regret here?" And me taking a gamble on starting a bookstore that became Amazon would have been his regret. So I think like it's a tale of two streets. And the reason why I say tale of two streets is there's a saying in psychology, neuroassociative conditioning, and it really means that the brain is activated by one of only two things, pain or pleasure. And if you can withstand the pain, like you talked about with grit, and at the same time keep that vision in mind of helping and serving the community, right? And a blend of both of those is going to be greatness. And any competitor, whether an entrepreneur or an athlete or somebody that's striving to do something special. So on the pleasure side, could you speak about this new store coming up in September and the 10-year anniversary in August? What will that represent for you, Alex, from the pleasure side? Will it be just another something that you're checking off and moving on to the fifth store, or is this a big deal in August or September for you?
It's huge. I'm born and raised in this city. I was actually born in a hospital like less than a half a mile away from this development, Good Samaritan. And this area has been kind of neglected for a lot of years. There's been really no development, and I love the growth of the city. It's been very tasteful, and the developers behind this project specifically are just bringing something so unique to the area. Um, Incredible food and beverage businesses, some great retail, high-end hair salons, office space, clubs, hotels, uh, and just to be able to have a seat at that table and be actually approached like, hey, we want you here, where their phones are just probably ringing off the hook with tenants that want to move in. I just think it you take a step back and you look at how much you've grown, where you were this small business trying to figure out where you fit in this community to now being reached, being approached by these big developers that want you in this space. And it feels good to be wanted. You kind of reach this road where you're like, wow, I'm being approached. I'm getting offered a seat at this table. And where you come from a place where you don't really feel like you deserve or you belong,
Mm,
you feel proud of yourself. You feel proud of like being in this position. And
mm,
so on a personal side, it feels like, wow, I've really elevated and I'm this business has turned a new leaf and it's something that people desire now. And then on a personal side, um, it just feels good to know that I've been the one steering the ship and having this amazing team behind me and my brothers full support. It's just really um, it's just a lot to take in. And I know I'm talking like very deep here because it's just a space. Uh, but if you look at where we come from and where we are now, it's so much deeper than that. And I just wanted to share that because it's for us, it's just like a big step for our business, and it'll be our fourth location. We've also had failures in our past where we've opened locations and closed them. That's a whole other topic. So it's like a good comeback story. We've expanded. We've had to closed some stores. Now we're expanding again, and it just falls back into this relentless pursuit of just doing better and working hard.
It's I want you to be deep, right? High performance is made up of all small things, but it's no small thing. Like I really do think what we talk about on these podcasts and your story, like it matters. It's motivating and it's really gripping. And what's on my heart to even bring up right now, Alex, is this thing that you've mentioned a few times throughout our conversation here today of right from the beginning, how you just love to connect with people on even your baseball team and things like that, because maybe you didn't always have that belonging because either your parents were working or whatever reason. And then now you have these communities of belonging, right? And whether it's Celis Run Club or even Celis Juice Bar, and now you're getting invited to the table. That like that's what people want, right? Like you said, we're very social beings. I want you to go into the belongings that you're a part of, right? I've had the opportunity to meet your 1401 crew, or it's just a special human beings there and with La Vie. And could you just share a little bit about what's going on that front?
For sure. And this is actually one of my favorite stories because it goes back to when I first started running. Well, not when I first started running. I was training for a half marathon, then I was training for a full marathon. This happened in 2023 and then 2024. So I'd go out on these runs by myself on like Sunday mornings. That's when I'd do my long runs, and I would always see a group of guys running together. And it was, now I know who they are. It's Cedric, Boris, G, and this guy Chris. I would run on Lake Trail, and I'd run by them. We'd say good morning to each other, and these guys were just, you could tell they were very dialed in. I saw them every Sunday. They ran hard. They ran as a group, and I really looked up to them. I mean, they looked like freak athletes, and here I am just trying to dial in to run a half marathon. And I saw them regularly. And one day I look up at Run Club, and Cedric and Boris are at my Run Club, and I was like, full circle. Now they're here. Now they've come to me, and still I admired them. I felt very like privileged that they were here at my Run Club because I see them regularly training, and they're an inspiration to me. So I started connecting with them, wanted to know their story, just what I do, how I'm personable. And then from there, Boris is actually here. He's recording me talk about this. So we start connecting, and they're like, hey, we want to be a part of this. How could we be a part of this? And they were actually trying to start their own run club. And then they saw Celis Run Club, and they're like, let's go check out Celis Run Club. They came out to Celis Run Club, and we're like, this is like, why are we going to try to start something? Let's just join them. And that was the beginning of our relationship. At that point, I was training for my full marathon happening in New York. I barely knew them. They're like, "Oh, what are you doing this week?" And I was like, "Oh, I got a long run on Sunday." They started coming with me to these long runs. Granted, they're not training for a marathon, and they go as far as to fly out to New York City to support me when I ran the New York City Marathon. Granted, I've known these guys 5 months. I've trained with them a handful of times. They've been to Run Club a handful of times. I've gone to dinner with them a couple times. And they came into my life at a time where I had a huge transition in my personal life. Um, I was going through a lot personally and professionally too. We were in the process of building out another store, which I was bootstrapping because finding financing in this economy is brutal. So I had a lot on my plate, and then these guys came in like two black guardian angels. I mean, they were just right there for me, and they pushed me, and I didn't even know it, but I was just becoming a better person day by day because of these two guys, and I owe them a lot. I know they don't see it that way; they feel like they owe me a lot, but they have a really special spot in my heart, and yeah, it's just I can get emotional thinking about it. It's so
Just
much deeper. It's not even about training. It was like it was faith.
yeah, I share it as often as I can. My favorite definition of friendship, which is what you two. I thought I was the only one. And it's a C.S. Lewis quote. It's the best definition of friendship I've ever come across. It's a spiritual by nature. It has nothing to do with the physical. It has everything to do with the intangible. It's amazing uh, because on the public speaking side of things, you say community before content. Another way of saying that is nobody cares about what you know until they know how much you care, and these lines that people say, but it's really true. And on the therapeutic side, it's support plus rapport, then insight. And I think many people like try to deliver the knowledge and deliver the product and deliver the service well before you build that rapport and you plug in and you get connected to yourself and those around you. And you know, I feel this is a great way to take our time here together to a close, but it started this way, and I kind of want to wrap it up the same way, that what you're doing is not just a health stop for people, right? It's a hub of connection. It's a place of community, and inside of community and communication is the word common, and what you make common in your life. And what
Mhm.
you're doing for South Florida is you're making it common to be healthy and striving and kind to one another. So even though you said many times the relentless pursuit of success, you also listen to your customers along the way and you get feedback and you're curious, and a lot of cures come from that. So I guess I would leave it to you to take us home. What I usually ask uh, guests are, how do you define greatness and what does greatness look like to you? That's how I usually wrap this up. I don't know if that's the best way to go here, but I would give you the microphone and just say, what are you looking forward to with the Celis brand? And what would greatness look like for the Celis brand from the Run Club to the Juice Bar and beyond?
Uh, so for me, what I want to continue doing with the Celis brand is expanding in communities that I want to reach and that I have like a personal connection with, and continue to grow the brand. And for me, greatness is I define greatness as inspiring others. And as long as I can keep inspiring people, then I feel like I'm great.
Well, you certainly have done that for me. I've been wanting to get you on this podcast for a long time. You said, let me finish the New York City Marathon. And then I appreciate you finding time and your busy schedule and all that you're pouring yourself into. You are not the mayor yet, but maybe one day. And you've made a huge impact on me in the short time that we've known each other. And thank you so much for all you're doing for our community here in South Florida and West Palm Beach. And I appreciate you making the time to come on here.
I appreciate you, Mark. Thank you so much. It only took us 6 months, but we got here.
We did.